Everyone knows about the 2-week Minecraft phase. You jump on a server with your friends, play for 2 weeks, and then everyone just gets busy. Geopolitical servers like RNC don't necessarily have this issue, but just like your friend's server, nations rise and fall just the same. Arendor was once a major player in RNC global politics. Despite being a sprawling nation with a diverse group of citizens, Arendor has now crumbled under its own denizens. So what happened? What caused a great nation to crack and fall to ruin? This is the history of Arendor on Rise and Conquer. To understand the formation of such a complicated state, we need to understand its predecessor, the Kalindorian Union. The first nation ever to exist on RNC, this nation was born from the merging of 5 separate island states. These islands joined together for the desire for mutual aid and eventually to form a nation. First, there was Kalindor Magna, known for their intricate architecture and large population. Led by that Slayer, this was by far the most populous of the 5 founding islands. Kalindor Magna served as the center of the Union, with that Slayer being the undisputed leader. Second, we have the Holy Order of Vinland. Located to the north of Kalindor Magna, Vinland is the religious center of the Union. Known as the birthplace of Messiahism, this would serve as the center of the Christiania religion after the formation of the Union. Haribo Campo was responsible for leading Vinland into Kalindor. Third, we have Roitmania, named after the eccentric and crazy Roitman. This was a largely forested land when it was discovered. Also known as the Land of the Cherry Trees, Roitmania exported large amounts of cherry wood to the rest of the Union, with the trees being considered a Kalindorian symbol of good luck. Next, we have Yakubia. Yakubia hosted much of the nation's military prowess. Joel H. was the leader of Yakubia, being a talented commander and PvPer. He brought other talented PvPers with him, and combined with Vinland's navy, Kalindor had a formidable fighting force at their disposal. Last, but certainly not least, was Parrot Island, a small island sitting in the Arulian Expanse. Though small, it makes up for its size with a wealth of resources and farms. The supplies farmed on Parrot Island provided food and resources necessary to supply the entire Union. These 5 islands make up the first ever nation in RNC, the Kalindorian Union. The Kalindorian Union was a senatorial dictatorship. Senators are appointed based on their merit, talents, or expertise, with them picking a leader themselves. That leader has veto power, but can be held accountable by the Senate. This made the Kalindorian Union one of the most democratic nations on RNC for its time. As Kalindor grew, so did the desire for new lands and new territory. They began to expand and colonize what is known as the Arulian Expanse, also known as the East Estrar Sea. They first moved west, engaging in friendly diplomacy with nations such as Zolcaris. However, it wouldn't be long until the Union would come into conflict. Quorinox was a nation directly west of Kalindor, founded by Germos. Just like Kalindor, Quorinox had a desire to control the entire Arulian Expanse. They began to settle colonies and islands close to the Unions, resulting in a direct denunciation from Kalindor. However, tensions reached a breaking point when a Vinlandic diplomatic vessel was sunk off the Quorinox coast. In an apparent Quorinox attack, that Slayer immediately declared war on Quorinox, bringing the Union into war. Realizing what they had done, Germos immediately surrendered unconditionally, resulting in Kalindor absorbing Quorinox into the Union. After this massive expansion, the Union set its eyes towards the north. They begun to interface with Krajina and Vidia, the 2 nations in the north of the desert. After a series of trades and diplomatic discussions, Kalindor invited both nations to join the Union. Krajina accepted, while Vidia refused. This caused the Union to unofficially block them, and surrounded Vidian territory quickly. After this long period of expansion, Kalindor decided to solidify some alliances. Most notably, they officially allied with Zolcaris as well as Aramusk. This sets the stage for the future of Kalindor as a major power in the land of Estrar. While Kalindor had been focusing on the Arulian expanse, their ally Zolcaris had been getting in some hot water diplomatically. Relations had broken down between Yogi, the leader of the Sacred Order, and your local Arab, the leader of Zolcaris. Both nations had a large PvP contingency, and competition over land resulted in them going to war with each other. As an ally of Zolcaris, Kalindor answered the call for war. The battle for Sacred, known as the Major Battle of the War, was fought at the Sacred Capital. During the ensuing battle, Kalindorian troops attempted to make a bold naval landing. This resulted in a high amount of Kalindorian casualties. Despite killing Yogi, the leader of Sacred, the Order ended up winning the war. This loss heavily demoralized the Kalindorian people. In response to this defeat, That Slayer decided to step down as leader of Kalindor after unallying Zolcaris and Arbaca. The Senate then appointed Agent Zero to lead the nation, resulting in a new emphasis on naval power. However, it wouldn't be long until Kalindor got involved with a war of their own. After the Zolk Sacred War, two members of Kalindor named Marno and Galaxy Star were patrolling territory when they ran into Wesley, the leader of Vidia. According to Vidia, Marno and Galaxy Star were homophobic, so Vidia attacked. In the ensuing chaos, Wesley's prized horse was killed. After the incident, Wesley demanded that Marno and Galaxy be handed over to Vidia for imprisonment. After a national vote, Kalindor ended up agreeing, but Vidia still wanted justice. In response, Vidia declared war against Kalindor. The ensuing battle took place on Estrar, near Kalindor territory. Although having a large navy, Kalindor was significantly weaker on land, resulting in a massive overrun by Viridian soldiers. Kalindor decided not to surrender and took up defensive locations at a nearby fortress. Leaders from around the world sent volunteers to Kalindor to aid them in this heroic fight against Vidia. Many leaders saw Wesley as a tyrant. During the Battle of Greystone, Agent Zero was quickly wounded in the Viridian charge, resulting in Agent being evacuated from combat. The Viridians quickly overwhelmed the forces of Kalindor. Some tried to escape the slaughter, but almost all were killed or captured. Vidia had won the war. Although the victory was contested by members of Kalindor, the battle was over, and Kalindor was forced to exile Marno and Galaxy Star, who went off to form their own nation. Kalindor struggled to recover from this war. Activity was dying, and people were leaving for new lands. But Agent Zero had a plan. While Kalindor was developing, the nation of Arachus began to form. They started as a small group at the western coast of the continent. After some time, Shaban of Arachus received guidance from Yakub, the sun god. He ordered Shaban to depart east to bring his people to the Great Estrar Desert. Here, they built the first Arachus settlement of Grishalon. Grishalon became the largest city in the desert, and when completed, was the largest on the server at the time. Coined the crown jewel of the East, Grishalon became a symbol of Arakan pride. While building their city, a religious group came praising their god and attempting to spread their faith. This group eventually became known as Arden. Despite their religious differences, the two groups formed a close friendship. This led to them agreeing to split up the desert, as well as agreeing to a free trade agreement. This led to a few weeks of stability, but was disrupted by the Rasmus affair and Arachus' involvement in the Zolk Sacred War. In the meantime, Arachus had formed an alliance with Coronox, the nation discussed earlier. When Kalindor declared war on Coronox, Arachus supported them until Coronox surrendered shortly after the war declaration. They had also formed an alliance with Arden, one of the signatories of the Desert Brothers Pact. While this was happening, Skyfall and Arachus were not getting along. Arden ended up collapsing and reportedly promised their land to Arachus. However, Skyfall claimed that the land belonged to them. This brought the two nations into conflict with one another. Various skirmishes broke out along their border, and this caused Skyfall and Arachus to come closer to war. Despite the leadership of Magyar and Sino repelling the Skyfall troops, there were still some concerns about Skyfall. This was when that Slayer met with Shaban about their predicament. He met with the Sultan Shaban, the leader of Arachus, and they formed a plan. Agent Zero and Shaban agreed that together, they would merge for mutual protection and to strengthen each other's realms, just as how Kalindor was formed in the days of old. They renamed the nation to the Empire of Arendor, with Agent Zero naming himself Citizen Emperor and Shaban the Grand Sultan. Together, their nations became the strongest naval power in the world, with the largest amount of territory. Arendor immediately began rekindling the alliance they once had and ending their isolation. Most notably, they allied with Zul'Karis, now known as Zulk Sacred, and the United States of Estrar. Together, these nations worked together to begin stopping the aggression Vidia did, successfully repelling a Viridian raid on Zul'Karis. As this conflict continued to expand, Vidia also began to make new allies. A new nation to the north, named Alt-Valesia, began buddying up to Vidia. This caused tension, as Alt-Valesia joined Vidia on multiple raids against Zulk Sacred. This was used to justify a war against Alt-Valesia. Arendor decided to help their allies in the war, beginning successful pirate operations upon Valesian shipping. The two nations' naval forces met together as they sailed to Alt-Valesia. The Alt-Valesians had constructed a massive fort fitted with many cannons and traps. However, the forces of Zul'Karis and Arendor bypassed these defenses by landing on the nearby island and beginning to bombard the fortress. Babilo, the leader of Alt-Valesia, died early into the bombardment, as well as many other Alt-Valesian lives. Asteron, an ally of Zul'Karis, had sent an elite marine force into the fortress, which wreaked havoc. When the bombardment stopped and the forces all charged together, the fortress quickly fell. Zul'Karis, Arendor, and Asteron victory. After this war, the leader of Zul'Karis was banned for reported mischievous activity, and in protest the Arendorians decided to boycott playing and harass the mod team. This caused the Sultan Shaban to be banned as well. When Agent Zero had realized that the claims against these leaders may be true, he ended the boycott, but it was too late. The damage had been done. The nation was dead and inactive. Agent tried to pull things together by marrying the new Emperor of Zul'Karis and making new resource programs, but nothing could bring back activity. In the end, Agent could not revive the nation. Once a major power, Arendor today is rarely active. The effects after repeated wars and the mass migrations have taken their toll, with no clear path forward for revival. This goes to show even the strongest empires can fall, and often fall the hardest. What will be the future of Arendor? Maybe they will have a resurgence, maybe they will not. But that is for the future to tell us. Will you suffer the same fate as Arendor? Or maybe you could forge ahead past these setbacks. Forge your own path on Rise and Conquer.